make no mistake, Canada is in a global war for talent. Right now, we're going head-to-head with virtually every developed country in the world, as well as developing powerhouses like China and India, where we are even witnessing reverse migration. We must be a destination of choice for skilled immigrants and professionals, or we will not succeed. And if we don't provide the right opportunities, we will lose those people who have the best potential. I stand before you as a representation of one facet of Canada's population, Canadian-born, from, as I said, a long-standing Canadian family, and I think I'm pretty firmly entrenched at the center of Canada's economy, certainly at the center of the financial services industry. And I think my experiences are shaped by that reality. But I do have colleagues and friends who represent many other realities of being Canadian. And I think it's through their experiences that I understand what it means to be a new Canadian. And it's through the stories that they share with me that I've come to realize that foreign-born Canadians have an equal responsibility to help the newest upcomers adapt to this country. We all see this responsibility when newcomers arrive. Newcomers often select to live in areas of Canada's major cities where others from their homeland reside. This initial landing point provides them with the familiarities and comforts of home, but it doesn't necessarily help newcomers in their search for meaningful work. The United Way of Greater Toronto published a landmark report called Poverty by Postal Code, which identified this pattern, the clustering of newcomers in certain sections of the city, and noted that it has contributed hugely to the difficulties newcomers have in making their way out of poverty and integrating into the Canadian economy. And I'm sure that the patterns seen in Toronto play out similarly in Canada's other major centres. The Toronto City Summit Alliance went further in its report, Enough Talk, and called for programs to quickly integrate newcomers into the Canadian economy. And yet, 5 years after its publication, here we are, still talking, but not taking very much action. I would hazard a guess, it's probably low risk, that many of you in this room are immigrants or children of immigrants. There are probably many, many stories in this room about the decision to make Canada your home. And there are likely tales of hardship, as well as, I'm sure, uplifting tales of great success. Think about your own story, and then think about those who are following you. How do we collectively make their transition to our country the best it can be? As you probably know, Canada welcomes almost 250,000 newcomers to Canada each year, each with their own story to tell. And at this rate, with our aging workforce and low birth rate, our labor force will stop growing in about 10 years. And that's why we at RBC went on the record saying that Canada should raise its immigration targets. But just increasing the numbers won't solve the issues if we don't successfully integrate. And in fact, it may severely compound the issues that I've been referring to. Because when people are not provided with the opportunity to maximize their potential, it not only leads to frustration, but also to poverty and social stresses in certain sectors of our communities. And I think everyone in this room knows that to be true. We know we can't just throw up our hands and hope the problems will go away. We know we need smart social planning to make sure that newcomers are properly welcomed, housed, and educated. We know that they need to be integrated quickly into our workplaces, our marketplaces, and economy so that they can contribute to the economy and enhance everyone's overall prosperity. Unfortunately, recent newcomers are having a harder time adjusting than in previous generations, our generations. They may be better educated than those of us who were born in Canada, but many of them have not yet found jobs that match their skill levels, or are earning less than people who were born in Canada, or even worse, they are unemployed. Ask yourself, why should a civil engineer from the developing world learn about roadworks while behind the wheel of a taxi? It's dilemmas like these that make Canadians shake their heads. Now think about how each of us can help. RBC's economics department quantified what it costs the Canadian economy to not make the most of talent within its borders. Here's what they found. If all foreign-born Canadians were fully employed at their level of education and expertise, earning equal pay to someone born in Canada, personal income would increase by $13 billion a year. Just from utilizing talent sitting in our own backyard, we could gain the equivalent of 400,000 more jobs in a year. Now, it may not be realistic to expect full employment at maximum potential, but it's still very disturbing to think of that resource going to waste, especially when in many areas we are still suffering labor shortages. So think about your own businesses and your own organizations, and think about what you personally could do with the resource of that talent. Our issues don't just revolve around newcomers. We also must make the most of the diverse talent that we already have right here in Canada right now. It should be easier for us here in Canada because Canada is already closer to being a model economy when it comes to integrating immigrants than anywhere else in the world. We already have higher participation rates and lower unemployment rates for newcomers than many other countries. We're on a good track, but we need to go further. We also have a more welcoming environment for newcomers, and I would bet that most Canadians fundamentally believe that immigration is good for our country. So we're well ahead of the pack in terms of receptiveness, inclusiveness, and enlightenment when it comes to matters of immigration. And this is a testament to those of you in this room. And that's a great foundation to build on. As we all know, if you want to be successful, you must capitalize on your existing competitive advantages. Now, we need an adequate infrastructure to help both new Canadians and future immigrants to maximize their potential. We must foster training programs, settlement programs, as well as mentoring and internship programs that provide Canadian work experience. We urgently need programs related to the recognition of foreign credentials and certification mechanisms, especially in professions and trades. And we also need the active participation of our longer-standing immigrant population. But let me return to the business world for a moment. Business, too, has to pick up the ball. There are positive new partnerships that have been forged between the business community and the nonprofit sector to address the issues faced by newcomers. In Toronto, the TRIAC, which is the Toronto Region Immigrant Employment Council, has many innovative programs. And right here in Ottawa, there is the Canadian Immigration Integration Project to help immigrants coming to Canada under the Federal Skilled Worker Program. And it helps them prepare for the labor market while they're still in their country of origin. And in its pilot phase, it is operating in China, India, and the Philippines. And RBC, I'm very proud to say, is a supporter of both these initiatives. But we know that there's still more to do. It's a long road yet ahead, and we all need to be on this journey. By their own admission, many Canadian companies say that they overlook newcomers. They hire them below their skill level, and when they hire them, they actually have trouble integrating them into their workforce. RBC sponsored a piece of research by Catalyst Canada to examine the career advancement of visible minorities, the first survey of its kind in Canada based on both employee and employer feedback.